Welcome back, 15-minute fixers. We're so glad that you all are joining us for another episode. Special edition this week. We know that we are in voting season. So today's 15-minute fix is on the importance of voting. I'm joined by my co-host, Kimberly Robinson. Thanks for being here, Kim.
Thanks, Kasha.
So many rights that are fundamental to our ability to thrive as US citizens, and many are rights that we would never give up willingly. Among these rights, of course, is the right to vote. It's critical, absolutely critical to our democracy. Recently, there was an article in the National Geographic that reminds us that participating in elections is one of the key freedoms in American society and in American life. And many people in countries around the world have not had that same freedom historically. Neither did many Americans for many years. And so we really want to make sure that we do not miss the chance to exercise this right and make further progress in our country. Additionally, we have to understand the history around the importance of exercising this right to vote. So don't take for granted this freedom and don't miss this amazing opportunity to let your voice be heard and most importantly, to stand for what you believe in. We have to understand that the political issues and the political parties can often cause a divide in our country, but don't let that stop you from getting involved. One of the things that we can make sure to do is, in addition to understanding the history, we can volunteer, we can speak out on social media, let our voice be heard in many different ways. And even though the national election, Kim, is very critically important, elections at the local level are very important as well. There was a recent study that showed that less than 15% of people go to their local elections to cast their ballot. And this includes elections for mayors, council members, other local officials. But these elections are very important as well. The local elections are conducted by popular vote, and so each vote is really critical to the process. There's not an electoral college that takes place during this time, so you don't want to leave the outcome of the election to only 15% of the people that are going to be represented.
So, just like Kasha mentioned, voting is one of the key freedoms that is afforded to us as Americans. And even though that should be one of our natural rights, as throughout history and even today, there have been instances of voter suppression and disenfranchisement of certain groups. So people have fought and died for our right. We don't want to lose the opportunity to have our voice heard and make our voice count. Voting allows you to have a voice in your local and federal government and how it's run. And you don't, as Kasha said, want a small group of people making those decisions for you. Not all groups are going to represent all of these small special interests, even big special interests. You don't want people guiding it by how much money they make or their race or their gender. We want to all have a voice to say how we want our democracy to be run. You know, understandably, the process for voting can be confusing, and that's what deters a lot of people from actively taking part in the voting process. Unlike some other countries, US actually leaves the onus of the process of registration on its citizen, which can cause some confusion about this. In addition, each state is actually able to create and enforce their own rules about how you vote, where you vote, and that is also causes confusion. If you move from one state to another, you need to relearn the process. What would be more ideal, of course, is a singular centralized process across the country. But that's not the case in the US. So you do have to take an active part as a voter, as someone who's eligible, to ensure that you know how and when to vote. You know, there's several things that we can do to be responsible voters for our country and our area. You want to understand your eligibility. So are you eligible to vote? And most Americans are, but there are certain criteria, and there's places like vote.org, which we'll leave you as one of our resources today, where you can check your eligibility by state and make sure that your voter registration is updated in time for the election. you want to take ownership of the process. As mentioned, there's certain deadlines, there may be certain rules depending on where you live about how and when you can vote. You want to take ownership to find out the specifics for your area, and that includes, again, local and general elections, so that you do your part to show up to vote. There are so many available resources. While the process may not be centralized, there are resources out there to help improve voter turnout. So you want to look up those resources. Google searches are great. You may also be able to contact your local voter office to better understand any needs or questions that you have. Once you have access to that information, again, find a way to record those dates, those locations, depending on where you are and when you vote. The locations may change. You want to have a good understanding about what that process looks like. We've talked a lot, you've probably heard a lot about absentee or mail-in ballots, so you can find out if you're eligible for that, if you're not in your local area. Or I even heard today that there's a state that doesn't even allow you to go into a polling place. You have to do all mail-in ballots. So you want to understand what those processes look like for your state and your local area. We really need to understand what's at stake here. You want to research your candidates. Places like vote.org allows you to do deeper dive into your ballots. There's research that you can do in your local newspapers to look at what's impacting your local area and us on a national level. And you want to be able to be an informed voter, make informed decisions so that you can make the best choice. We've talked about our history. We need to understand the history of where we are and where we're going. We need to think about what's at stake right now. And we want to be able to make an impact for our future, as well as the future of our children and any future generations. So don't miss the opportunity to really make your voice heard, to be able to exercise your right, to be an ally for those that are still disenfranchised, to be able to allow others to advocate on your behalf, to get you the rights and the things that you deserve as a citizen of the United States. We want to protect that by any means necessary. We can't hear you if you don't make your voice heard. So make sure that you are putting yourself out there to take responsibility, make your vote count, and get out there and bring somebody with you.
Thanks so much, Kim. So the word that came to mind as you were talking is legacy. Think about the legacy of people that came before us that made this possible, this opportunity. And as you said, for those of us who have families, think about your family legacy, your children legacy. Think about your own legacy and what you want to present. So we have to protect that legacy, as you said. And so absolutely get out there and vote early, bring someone with you. Please make sure you understand where you are supposed to be voting. You can look at your local county office of elections. They can tell you where to vote. Mostly everyone that I know of has websites, so please check that out. Remember that you have to vote in your own county. I think in large part you can't just jump from county to county, or if you happen to be somewhere else in your state, you have to return to your county to vote. So please make sure you know where you're going before voting day, at least by voting day. Get there early. You guys be safe out there. Socially distance in those polling lines, which may make them look really long, but hopefully they won't be too bad. So have a great evening. Thanks for joining me, Kim. You guys vote. Looking forward to seeing you all at the polls. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.